Hi, we're super excited. I am Mikhail Wilcox, and this is my father, Lamont Wilcox, and we're excited to talk to you guys today about parenting, because everybody is a parent, honestly. I mean, whether you're parenting your friends or your students or whatever.
Parenting your spouse.
Yeah, we're all kind of parents in a way. So learning how to be a parent, an efficient one, and being able to help those around you is an amazing skill that we're excited to teach you today.
And the major concept behind this is that our brain functions off of maps of thinking. And maps of thinking can be highly influenced by others, but especially parents, because the children have created their foundational maps based off of the parents. So the parents are the person in the number one position to be able to help their child.
And there may be a lot of parents, or maybe you listening to this, that kind of feels like, oh, maybe my kids are all grown up and they moved out and I don't really have that much of an influence on them anymore. Or my kid never listens to me, I don't really have any influence on them. And that is not true. This is so not true. Your influence when we rely on other people to see if we're having an influence or not on them, that's when we get false signals and we kind of feel like we're not making that impact on them because we're judging on their reactions. So don't let that hold you back from continuing to try and to have that hope and to keep pushing and moving forward and trying all the strategies, right? We always say in our videos, you've tried everything except the thing that works. So keep going.
Because ultimately, as a parent, it only takes moments for them to recognize that you have shifted what you think, how you're thinking, and their maps are wrapped into your thinking. So the moment that you make that switch and you respond in a way that shows them that, they can change instantaneously. We have hundreds of stories of parents and ourselves who have just responded in one little way because of what we did up here, and suddenly they completely change. They completely change. For the rest of their lives, they completely change. Guys, it's never too late. It only takes a moment. As parents, it only takes a moment. So today we're going to talk about some strategies, but we just want you to know strategies are not the thing that's going to get you there, because there's too many scenarios. It could be helpful to learn a strategy. Most of the world focuses on strategies. The strategies are usually to address symptoms of the problem, not the core of the problem. However, we want to give you a few ideas of some things that have come up so that you can see how powerful this is. But to understand, the power is not in the strategy. The power is in what's behind the strategy, your ability to come up with a strategy for any situation.
So as you listen to this, kind of take these ideas and these concepts with a grain of salt, that your experience with your child or whoever it is you're trying to parent, that experience is going to be different than anything we're going to give you. And it's going to be so much more complicated than that. So kind of saying again, that's why it's so important and so effective to be able to be in that place where you can think of new ideas and can come up with new things, because you're the best person in that situation to be able to analyze and to see what's going on and to make whatever it is work that you're trying to help with.
Because it's truly complicated and only a way you can understand, you as a parent, that you have the ability to tap in to what maps have been created and which ones your children are playing off of, because they're a version of yours. And so you're the one to be able to do this. You are ultimately in the best position to really help your child.
And lots of times we go to these other therapists or psychologists or people to help and kind of influence our child, or maybe we have a teacher, and a lot of the times we kind of put it on that person to fix our child or help our child. But ultimately, you are the best person and in the best situation to be able to influence your child. And knowing that alone makes it so that you can have that influence, because you believing that makes it so that you have that ability to make a difference in your child's life. So don't believe that someone else can do it better than you, because you ultimately are the most effective person that can help them, because your maps and the way of thinking is going to be able to influence your child in that way.
And we don't know your life and what you're going through, but you also might be the only person who can do this for your child. You may be the only one who can really do this. So this is really cool stuff. You're capable. The number one thing I'm trying to work into parents' minds is to realize that they can do it. That it's complicated only to the extent that their maps match with yours. So it's not that complicated for you, but it is for everybody else. That's why we're going for you.
And you don't need to go out and get a degree in psychology and go super deep in all this research and know all these facts and these huge things. It's pretty simple process. And so being able to dive into that, just those simple ideas and concepts, will make a huge difference. And so anybody can do that. We're not We're not specialists in the idea that we are different than anyone else. This is really something that everybody can do.
This is a specific model that helps anyone. And we're not all special and different because we have this special power. It's just a model that we use. We use it just like you can use it, and everybody's the same in using this model because it goes to the core. So, that being said, we want to share some examples to give you an idea, one, to see what it is you're doing that you unknowingly are kind of wrecking your children. And you have been since they were little, and you were taught this by the world and everybody else, and they all thought this was the way that it works. All right, so first example. This happened to me just the other day. So my son walks up, we have a basement, and I go to the basement and use the basement. This is where our studio is. And my son came up, and he said, that has a bedroom down here, and he said, "Dad, you leave the lights on all the time." Okay, so rule number one of what not to do. Stop trying to impress your kids and show them that you're good, that you're better, and defend yourself, okay? Those are big don't do's. Don't try to defend yourself, and don't try to make yourself look good. That's a big, huge one of the biggest problems with parents is you're trying to be an example by showing that you do everything right and that you're good at things.
Which is essentially having pride, right?
Yeah, that's where your ego gets in the way. And this is extremely common. And many of these examples are what's behind them is this ego and this pride to try to be the example. And we call it pride. It has a kind of a negative connotation to it, but really deep inside, we want to be a good example, right? We want them to see the best of us so that they'll be the best of them. However, that doesn't work. That will wreck your child. You're being defensive, and it's actually self-centered, and you're also trying to meet your own needs through the other child by looking good or whatever that thing is. So he walks in, he says, "Dad, you leave the lights on all the time in the basement." And my first reaction is what? My first reaction is to say, "I don't leave the lights on all the time. I'm always turning off your light. Your light is always off." What do you mean? Who are you comparing me to? I rarely turn the lights off. I go down there so many times a day, and I almost always turn them off. It's rare that I ever don't turn them off. So go down in your room and turn your light off right now. I know it's on because I just walked by. Or something like that, right? That's our tendency to respond. But that wrecks your child.
And how do you think the child is then feeling in that moment? Are they feeling that love from you that you want them to feel?
And putting them in that place in their mind where they can think freely and think in a way that is effective? Or does it put them into that confined state of mind where they just want to respond just like you just did? What did you just teach them? To respond just like you did, right? So that's one really doesn't work.
And there's so many different wordings and words that we use that we don't really notice the meaning that we're actually portraying onto somebody else. For example, like if you tell someone that they are good, like, "Oh, you're so good." And then what happens when they're not being so good? Maybe they're being bad, or in your perspective, being bad. So teaching your child in one situation that they're being good means that in another situation they can be bad. And so then they're going to start to believe that maybe they are bad. And is that true? Do you want your child to feel that or believe that?
Because when we say that a behavior determines if we're good or bad, then they start to want to become or to define themselves by what they have done. So if you say, be good, sit down and be good and listen, then if they don't sit down, be good and listen, then they think they are bad. And if they are a child who has a hard time sitting down and being good, maybe they have struggles with attention or whatever the different things are, then they start to feel like they're a bad child. And this is where the root of so much mental illness starts. This is where we're really wrecking our children.
Because sometimes the child will then take that as their identity and who they are, that they're a bad person, or when they do this thing, they're bad. And that goes really, really deep. And those patterns will keep playing out over and over and over because of how deep that idea or that belief is in them.
Because whatever that thing is that you're teaching them, if it's really difficult for them, then they'll give up. They'll give up on being good. And then all your attempts to try to get them to be a certain way by telling them they're good and bad, guess what they'll start to do? They'll start to try to be bad because they want to lift that pressure and they don't want to feel that thing. So how many of you have kids that seem to just want to be bad? Right? And you're wondering why? Well, it's you. You did it. That's the thing. You did something that triggered that behavior. And now you might have a teenager who's clear off that direction. And it comes from these basic things that we're doing and saying that we just don't understand how it affects them. And this is fun stuff. This can change everything.
Have you ever had the experience or that moment when you did something to make someone else feel a certain way? And maybe that moment is all the time. What if you're going throughout your life living that way all the time, just trying to please other people constantly without ever thinking about yourself or going internal that way? Where does that kind of stem from? Where do we get that idea from? And why do we act that way?
And maybe it's not so much on the surface that you're realizing that you're trying to make everyone happy all the time. But think about it for a minute. How much of our identity is built up around what other people think of us? How often do we go to other people to try to create who we are or understand who we are or define who we are?
Or how many times do we ask someone else's opinion about us, and then whatever it is that they say, we kind of take in as like who we are.
Yeah, and if someone come and you see your kids do this all the time. They call each other names or they say something to the other person, and the other person believes it. They believe the other person believes it, and they believe it's part of them, and it offends them. They get mad, and then it turns into an argument.
Yeah, especially when you're a little kid and your sibling's like, "You're an idiot," and the kid's like, "I'm not an idiot," and like the parent's like, "Of course you're not an idiot," but the kid believes that just because someone said it.
And actually, the real reason why is because you said some things and did some things to your child that you were unaware would create this pattern, and it's really simple. It's really simple.
And one of those examples could be when you tell your kid, "It makes me so happy when you do whatever," right? And then the kid is like, "Oh, so when I do this thing, it'll make them happy." And so they just keep doing that thing over and over and over just to make the parent happy. But is it really what the kid truly wants, or is serving that child?
Because what you're building into them is this idea that other people's happiness is based off of their behavior, or in other words, their identity. So they need to start living up to other people's expectations. And then to do that, they have to understand everybody's expectations, and then it turns into a whole mess because it's too complicated to understand every single thing everybody else wants. So then we start to obsess with other people, what they think, what they're doing, trying to compare, and it all stems from that simple, innocent thing that you said when you said that to do these things makes you happy. And to do that makes you happy because it immediately says the opposite. If that makes me happy, then not doing it makes me unhappy. And now you're saying your ability to choose doesn't just result in your own life experiences, it results in everyone else's. So now you're responsible for everyone. How many of you parents feel that? Okay, your parents did it to you, so don't do it to your kids. So these are some really powerful points, extremely powerful points. However, they're still just individual strategies with individual examples. The key to finding more of these, and there's a lot more, and they're very specific to your child, is to get inside yourself and learn a system to come up with these kind of things in the moment. Your kids are very witty. You go memorize these things, and then you go try to use them, they're going to look right past it. And they're going to see that you still think all these things.
So it's got to be genuine. It's got to be from your heart. You have to believe it first before you can portray the idea to someone else. Or like you said, they're just going to see right through that, and it's not going to help them or even influence them in the way that you want.
So we don't want to make too long of a video right now. We wanted to touch on these parts of what not to do. If you want to learn more about these specific things on what to do, how to replace them, then go to the link below and click on it to see the next video so that you can figure a little bit more, get some more examples of strategies, only strategies at this point. We really want to invite you to do more with us, to watch more on our YouTube channel, to come to our events, to anything that we're doing on our social media, whatever it is that you found us, and however, do more of it because we have a lot more. We have a load of this stuff to help change what you're doing in your head so that you can calculate and figure and know specifically what's going to work before you even use it. You don't have to go out and test strategies. You'll actually know. It's in your head. Your brain knows. So thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't, of course, subscribed or shared this with anyone else, if you want to share this with someone else, go for it. We'd love to help more people. That's our ultimate goal. It has been life-changing for us, and we love to help change other people's lives. And you can be a part of that by just sharing it out to other people, and actually call people up or text them and say, hey, you got to see this video. You got to watch this thing.
Or send the video to them.
Yeah, send a link to the video. Hit the little share button and paste it onto your text and text it over to them and say, I just watched this video. It is amazing. We are screwed up as parents, and there's a way to fix it. And yes, that's the case. Sorry, guys. We messed up. I messed up. We didn't know any better. That's all we knew. But now we can know something different. So thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video.